to Inheritance Part 2. So in this lecture we're going to cover the following. We're going to learn the difference between single-level and multi-level inheritance. Then we're going to take a closer look at the MRO and the super function. And then lastly we're going to take a look at several problems when using this super function. So what is multi-level inheritance exactly? Well, we've seen single-level inheritance with three classes. So we have girl and boy, and then we have our parent1 class. And the girl and boy classes have their own attributes and methods, but they also inherit some from the parent1 class. So parent1 branches out into the girl and boy classes, which are also known as the child, sub, or derived classes, and the parent1 is the parents, super, or base class. With multi-level inheritance, here we have 5 classes. So we have in this row 4 classes, and then in this row also 4 classes. Now the baby girl class of course has its own attributes and methods, but it also inherits some from the girl class, which in turn inherits some from the parent1 class, which in turn inherits some attributes and methods from the grandparent class. So you can imagine that the grandparent class is the most basic of the 4 classes in this row. And as we go down from grandparent all the way down to baby girl, it becomes progressively more complex for each subclass. Similarly, the baby boy class is more complex than the boy class, which in turn is more complex than the parent1 class, which in turn is more complex than the grandparent class. And of course they both branch out. So you have grandparents, then parent1, and then it branches out into the boy and girl classes with their own respective subclasses, which are baby girl and baby boy. Okay, so let's take a look at some code of a single level inheritance with 4 classes, and then we'll convert that into multi-level inheritance. So we'll have class A, class B, class C, and lastly class D. We might add another one later on. Now if you hold the control for Windows users, or if you're a Mac user, hold the commands, then left tab, and left tab, then colon, and then we'll do def mode. So it's the same method we're going to have for all 4 classes. Self, then we'll do prints, I'm inside class A, and of course we're going to just change this to B, C, and D, like so. And because we're using inheritance here, we have to just do the control, then left tab. Then we're just going to have a single level inheritance. So they're all going to be inheriting from the base class, which is class A. So B, C, and D are subclasses inheriting from class A. Okay, so we've seen this before, but we can just go over it again. Now if we have, let's say, G equals, let's say, D, and then we do g.mode, and we'll also do d.mro for method resolution order. So we have I'm inside class D, and then D and A, with of course the special class being objects. So let's say for instance we wanted to convert this into a multi-level inheritance. What we can do is put this as B and this one as C. And now if we do D, we get I'm inside class D, and then you have D, C, B, and A. So it's quite intuitive. And let's say we put in another class. So I'm going to put in just E. So all I'm going to do is just copy this one here, and then paste, and we'll put this as D, and this as E, and of course this is going to be a print of I'm inside class E. Okay, and then we'll just change this to E and E here as well, and now it's E, D, C, B, and A with objects, and I'm inside class E. Alright, so of course the method mode has a process of overriding the outputs of the print statement for I'm in class D. Alright, so let's say we want to instead have, just remove this class here, I'm going to put in some super functions. So we're going to do it for just B, C, and D. So what I'm going to do is, let's say super, and then we'll have B, self, then dot mode. Likewise, we're going to have it here as well. That's going to be super c self.mode, and then lastly here as well, super d self.mode. Okay, now just going to remove the e, and we'll do, let's just do d g.mode. Okay, run that, and also we'll do d.mro just to get a clearer picture of what's happening. So you can see D, C, B, A, and it says here the output of D, C, B, and A. Now let's say I want to change the order of this output here. All you have to do is simply go to where you have the super B. So I'm just going to cut this, and then change the order, paste over, and now if I run this, it should be D, C, A, and then B. D, C, A, and B. Okay, great. So what's happening here is that we just undo that just to make things clearer. Run that and run this again, so we have D, C, B, and A. So the super function is going into the inherited C class, and then it's printing out the outputs for I'm inside class C, and then similarly the super function in class C is going into the inherited class B, and then it's outputting I'm inside class B, and then of course the last one is the output for I'm in class A. And of course you're not using the super function inside the class A because it is the base class. It's not inheriting from anything, it's being inherited from. Alright, so what if there's a problem with actually using the super function? Well, the problem is that you could develop what's called an infinite loop. So I'll just show an example, but I'm going to import time module, and then we're going to actually create just two more classes here. So they're going to be, let's say we have cat, and then we'll do def kitten self colon, and we'll do just simply print meow, nothing special there. Then we'll have time.sleep 2, and then we'll do super dog self, and the dog is going to be actually another class, and we'll have that as kitten. And now we'll do, let's say, class dog, and this is going to be inheriting the cat class, then def puppy, so there's not going to be any overriding here, print, and this is going to be simply woof, as you can expect, and then we'll have super dog self dot kitten. Okay. Now if I were to do, let's say, d equals dog, and then do d dot puppy, what you're going to get is an infinite loop here. So just scroll down and just show you the outputs. So you get woof and meow, and then you get meow indefinitely. That's why I put the time.sleep of 2 seconds. So every time you have meow printed out every 2 seconds. So 1, 2, and there you go. You have the output. So you can simply undo that by clicking here where it's blue, and then pressing the I key twice. And then it does keyboard interrupt. So you just hit I twice. It's going to be I like that. Okay. So you want to make sure that you avoid this kind of situation, otherwise you'll have an infinite loop when you're using the super function. Alright, so let's take a look at another issue that you might encounter when using the super function when it comes to inheritance. And also note that the super function cannot really exist on its own without actually inheriting from something. So the super, in this case the function super, is treating dog, the dog class, as actually the super or parent class. And then of course when you're having dog inheriting from the cat, is treating the cat as the super or parent class, and therefore you have what's basically a closed loop. Alright, so let's create a more practical, tangible example here. So we have class, and that's going to be animal kingdom, and then we'll have our initialization, so it's going to be a special method init, self, species, action, and then we'll define them, of course. So species equals species, self.action equals action, and then we'll have a method here, and it's going to be in capitals, and I'll show you why later. That's more of a standard convention to have them capitalized when they are methods in a class, of course. And that's going to have, let's say, print I am a, and I can dot format self dot species self dot action, and then we'll have 3 more classes. So they're going to be class mammal, there should be mammal, then it's going to be inheriting from the animal kingdom, and then we'll also do, of course, the init, so it's going to be species, excuse me, I should have a comma there, species, action, name, age, and then we'll do super dot, it's going to be species, action, and then we'll have self.age equal to age, and self.name equal to name, and then we'll have def, that's going to be info, self, colon, and then we'll have, say, print, my name is, and I'm something, dot format, self.name, self.age, class, pets, it's going to be inheriting from mammal class. Again, we'll do the init, self, that's going to be species, action, name, age, and this time we'll have favorites, colon, and then we'll do super dot init, species, action, name, and age. And then we'll define the favorites. That's going to be self favorites equals favorites, and then we'll have def, that's going to be meal, self, colon, print, favorites, food is something, dot format, self dot favorites, and then lastly just one more class, that's going to be class very baby, and then we'll have pets, so inheriting from the pets class, and then again, of course, the init. So hopefully this is going to be pretty standard for you now. Species, it's going to be action, name, age, favorites, and lastly we'll have noise. So we'll define that one, but before we do that we have the super init, it's going to be species, action, name, age, favorites, and then lastly self.noise equals noise, and then we'll do def, it's going to be capital, talk, self, colon, and print the likes to something dot format to be fairy baby dot name, then self dot noise. Alright, so that should hopefully be clear and no typos, but we'll double check in a second. So let's say I do cat equals, and we'll do fair baby, we'll do shift and tab, you can see the parameters here, species, action, name, age, favorite, and noise, just like what we have here. Alright, so what I'm going to do is have, let's say, feline, actually, that should be without the A, so feline, we'll do jump, Gracie, 5, and favorite food we'll do as Dreamies. Right, run that. So it looks like I got an issue here. So what have I got? 1, 2, 3, 4. So species, jump, age, favorites. Okay, so I'm missing out the favorites, and that can be, let's say, oh yeah, the noise, that's going to be noise. So that should be obviously meow. Well, that's fine. It's all good to go. So it seems as though my code is fine. And as you can see now, it's quite clear that all the capitalized here are all the methods that we defined. If they were lowercase, then they would just look rather confusing and mixed up with the parameters that we have defined. So we've got animal, and let's run that. So I'm a feline and I can jump, so cat dot, let's say info, my name is Gracie number 5, cat dot meal, favorite fruit is dreamies, cat dot, lastly talk, my furry baby likes to meow. Alright. Now let's say for instance I wanted to, just before that actually, I'm going to just show you the method resolution. So we'll have furrybaby.mro, so you can see furry baby, pets, mammal, and then animal kingdom, and obviously the object here. So that's the method resolution order for this multi-level inheritance. Now let's say for instance I wanted to, instead of having this sequential inheritance whereby we have the base be animal kingdom and then it's being inherited by mammal, and then that mammal class is being inherited by pets, and then pets is being inherited by furry baby. Let's say I change this to be pets inheriting animal kingdom. Okay, run that. Now it seems fine so far, but if I hit the Shift and Tab, so I've got all of these parameters just like before, but if I run this, I get a type error. So what is this type error saying here? It says init takes 3 positional arguments, but 5 were given. So what is it talking about exactly? Well, what we have here is a case of the kingdom only takes a total of 3 parameters. So the self one is obviously a parameter in itself, and then you have species and action. So unfortunately, if you try to inherit if you try to do single level inheritance for the pets or for the fur baby class, it's going to cause an error, and that's because we haven't defined certain parameters. So let's take a look at the pets one as well. So if I were to do double click here, and instead I'll actually comment this out, and we'll have, let's say, dog equal to pets, Shift and Tab, so you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright, so we have got the noise one here, and we'll have canine, and we'll have run, we'll have, let's say, Tommy, that's capital, Tommy, 5, and let's say crunchies. Again, we're going to have another issue. It's not going to work. Type error, it says 3 positional arguments, but 5 were given. So again, it's referring to the fact that we are inheriting from the animal kingdom class, and that only has 3 parameters here, whereas the pets one has a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parameters. Alright, so that's the 2 issues that you might encounter when using the super function, and that concludes my lecture on the multi-level inheritance. I hope that's been insightful, and in the next lecture I'm going to be covering multiple inheritance. Thanks.